Hey there, welcome back to Branded. I'm Sarah, and some of what I'm about to describe might spark something in you that you've been feeling but haven't quite given yourself permission to act on yet. Because there are things that business owners quietly stop doing and don't even realize it. Like no announcement, no pivot post, no explanation of what changed or why. They just gradually stop, and the stopping from the outside might look like scaling back, but it's actually the opposite. So let's start with when you stop documenting the grind, the hustle, because at some point you'll stop making content about how hard you're working. And this is different than behind the scenes content that's genuine and connecting and totally worth making. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the content that's really about proving your effort. That I woke up at 5 a.m. post, the exhausted but grateful captions, the this week nearly broke me, but here's what I learned type of content, the performing of work rather than the actual sharing of it. If you're still making that kind of content, ask yourself honestly, who is it for? Because at a certain level, you stop needing to document the effort. Not because you stop working hard, but because you stop needing to prove that you are working hard. And what replaces it is the thinking, the observations, the conclusions that you reached after doing the work privately. So the work becomes a little invisible, but the output of the work becomes the content. And something about that shift changes how you're perceived. There's a quality to showing up with the result rather than the process. It feels more established, and you become someone who doesn't need to document your efforts because the effort itself is self-evident in what you're producing. Hustle content, for me at least, was always in part about reassurance. Reassurance to your audience that you deserve what you're building because look how hard you're working for it. But when you stop needing that reassurance, the content changes and your audience feels it, even if they can't name it. So, are you still making proof of effort content because it's producing results? Lola's ball. Sorry if you heard the bounce. Are you still making proof of effort content because it's producing results? Or because some part of you still feels like you need permission to stop? The next thing that a lot of business owners stop doing is justifying their prices. I see this, and this might be the most immediately useful topic here because at a certain level, you stop explaining why you charge what you charge. There's a phase that a lot of business owners are still in where you feel like you have to defend your pricing. Here's all the stuff that's included. Here's the value breakdown. Here's why this is actually worth more than what I'm charging. Here's the limited time offer that makes it accessible. All of that is justification. And justification, even well intentioned, sends a signal to the buyer that the price maybe doesn't hold on its own, that there's a conversation to be had, that the price is merely a starting point rather than the statement. But here's what happens when you stop justifying it. You say the number and you let it sit there. No breakdown, no defense, no apologetic framing. The price is what it is because the work is what it is. And when you stop that justification, it might reduce conversions. But in a lot of cases, it also improves them because the confidence that your pricing now projects is more persuasive than any explanation of it ever could be. The right client isn't looking for justification. She's looking for a sign that you actually believe in what you offer. And nothing signals that more clearly than a price that does not need to be defended. So if you're still justifying your prices on all your sales pages and in every offer announcement, I want you to consider what it would feel like to just say the number and trust that the right person will understand it. The next thing that people stop doing very quietly is being available everywhere all the time. You quietly become less accessible, and that changes a lot. Perhaps you have slower response times, you're not posting on every platform, you're not available for every single discovery call, you're not inside of every DM within the hour. You're not constantly present in every space that your audience occupies, and that's okay. This is one that doesn't get announced almost always, right? It just sort of happens. Your response times get a little longer. Maybe you start putting in a boundary of like 24 to 48 hours that you get back to people. You start using fewer social media platforms. You get selective with the calls that you do take. When you're everywhere all the time, you are subconsciously communicating how you treat your time. And it's unintentional, but if you respond to every DM within minutes, if you're active on every platform daily, if you take every call that comes in, that signals something. And the person on the other end reads into it, whether you intend them to or not. But when you become harder to reach, something shifts. Not because you're like fake performing scarcity, but rather because you're operating at a level where your time genuinely has competing demands. And that reality, when it's genuine rather than manufactured, changes how people value access to you. You don't lose your audience when you become less available. You're filtering it. The people who stay are the ones who value the access enough to work a little for it. And that audience tends to be significantly more ready to buy than the one that just sort of was stacking up because you were easy to reach. So, is your current availability reflecting your actual capacity? Or does it reflect a habit from an earlier stage of your business that you just haven't revisited yet? Lastly, you stop teaching everything for free. A lot of business owners who have sustained regular paid work have gradually stopped giving away everything in their free content. And I'm not saying that you become withholding. I'm not saying the free content stops being valuable. Honestly, it often gets better because the nature of what you're sharing shifts. There's a distinction between sharing your perspective and sharing your methodology. Perspective is your observation, your insight, your way of looking at something that only comes from being inside the work. It makes people think differently. It makes them see their own situation more clearly. It creates a sense of resonance. Methodology, this is your how. This is your framework, your step by step, the thing someone could take and implement without paying you a dime. And at a certain point, you feel the push to share your perspective rather than your methodology. Not because you're withholding anything, but because you figured out that the how, without the relationship, without the specific application to a specific business, is actually less valuable than it appears. And because the how is what the paid work is for. So your free content becomes a demonstration of how you are thinking. Your paid work becomes access to what you do with that thinking on behalf of a specific client. And once you get clear on that distinction, something shifts. The guilt about where you draw the line, it goes away. The free content gets sharper because it's doing one specific job. The paid work gets even more clear because it's being applied to a specific job. So if you've been feeling like you need to give more of your free content to justify asking someone to pay, this might be the thing in your business that's worth examining. Because the business owners who stop giving it all away for free aren't giving less. They just got more clear about what content goes where. Now, maybe you noticed a through line between these four things. And you should, because every single one of these things, documenting the grind, justifying the price, being available everywhere, giving away the methodology, it's all a form of proving yourself, proving that you deserve what you're building by showing how hard you work for it, proving that your price is fair by explaining the value, proving that you're accessible and present by being everywhere, proving your expertise by giving away everything you know. But at some point, you stop needing to prove. Not because you're an arrogant person or because you stop caring about the people that you're serving, but because you've reached a point where the proof is in the work itself rather than in the performance around it. And that shift from proving to simply being is what most people see when they look at established business owners and think something feels different about how they're showing up now. You stop needing the proof to do the work that the actual work should be doing on its own. So I'll leave you with this today. Is there something you're still doing because you feel like you need to prove something? Not because it's producing results or because it's genuinely serving the people you're trying to reach, but because some part of you feels like stopping would look like you're not working hard enough, or charging too much, or not giving enough. The business owners who stop all of these things don't stop because of a bad result. They stop because the results are good enough that proving it stopped being necessary. You don't have to announce any of these changes. You don't have to explain them to anyone. You simply gradually stop, and the stopping is part of what makes you more visible, not less. Share this with a business owner who's ready to put something down but hasn't quite given herself the permission to do it yet. Perhaps this will help her see it differently. I'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Bye, you guys.